What is going on, Benzinga Nation? We've got a special guest lined up for you here today. We're going to be covering all the earnings that are dropping, especially Apple, which is why you're here hanging out with us. But we got Mitch, who is going to be joining us. Now, if you've watched Benzinga for quite some time, you know that Mitch was on our live trading show, always hanging out, always giving out good insights from the macro level, but also from the technicals and fundamentals as well. So let's go ahead and bring on my man, Mitch. Money Mitch, how's it going, buddy?
What's going on, Benzinga Nation? Where are all the zingers? Come on.
Hey, I appreciate you joining us, man. It should be a fun show. Before we kind of dive into things, right, because there's so many stocks to talk about, give me a quick insight. What is Trade the Pool? How do you utilize them to, take advantage of leverage?
Yeah. So like always, right? One of the things that I've always been doing is what? Trading, right? And learning while trading, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to get to that level where we can really make this, the full-time gig, right? Where it could just provide the food on the table and we don't have to worry about things anymore. But the truth is, for many traders and like traders myself, we struggle with what? With capital, right? And putting like these $30,000, $40,000, maybe $60,000, $100,000 accounts, right? I mean, you don't just find that underneath your pillow, right? Yeah. That's the truth, right? And so the truth is that's why Trade the Pool exists for traders like me that are looking for what? They're looking for capital to make these big trades, right? Because the truth is, to make big money, you need money, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you can't go trading with $200 and expect to make money, right?
Well, I saw you trading earlier on their stream, and you were up a few $1,000s, so you'll talk about it. And for the folks at home that are watching right now, if you want to take advantage and get $250,000 in buying power, you've got the link in the chat. We'll go ahead and pin it so you can refer to it whenever you want. But Mitch, talk to me about your Apple trade, as that's why we are here.
All right. I'm right now looking at Apple right now. It's starting to trade up. I was able to get a little entry there at 217.18. So going to be looking to see, of course, if Apple gets this nice push. One of the things that happened today, though, of course, we got a nice little wipeout move, right? Yeah. On the downside on the Qs.
Wait. I've been waiting 3 years to do this. You ready?
Yeah.
You may want to share your screen.
Oh, look at that.
I'm just saying. It's been a while, buddy. Now share your screen so we can watch the charts.
Good, man. Yeah, for sure, man. Let's go ahead. Let me share this up, get this going here, and we'll see what the action is off of this, right? I'm looking around to see what happens here, but let me go ahead and share the right screen here.
You got so many monitors, man.
Dude, I got too many now. This is the bad thing about having too many monitors, and especially this one that I have to like kind of adjust. But there you go. We got it sharing here. We'll get it going here. Let's go. All right.
So what you looking at?
So let's take a look at Apple here, right? So of course we're going to be looking for a nice little pop. I already kind of gotten out of that first little bit, but I'm looking to get back in it here. We're going to see the first reaction because a lot of the times we get these wicks on these earnings, right? Where you'll get this like little downside action right off the kind of the print, and then you get the upside breakout, right? So right now I'm looking at it. Apple's gone down far enough to where you can go in off of these hourly supports. And that's where a lot of traders are now basing their trades. The same thing is for the Qs. Look at the Qs, where you're at, your hourly support, right? So a lot of bets are going to be placed off of these hourly supports. Now we'll see what happens, of course, to Apple's numbers, really, because that's what we want to see here, right? I mean, a lot of traders are going to be looking to see what happens in, of course, the iPhone, the China results. That's what's going to be on the radar, right? I can go through a little bit of a preview if we want to talk a little bit more just specifically on Apple. Trading-wise, of course, when you clear 226, it's all out breakout, right? So 226 is right here. You look to the left, you're trying to go back and clear this numbers here, and you rejected it early on, right, in the day, which was this 225 break right above the support here, right? Resistance acting as resistance where it used to be support. Now if you can clear that space with this earnings report, there's no reason to think that with a good earnings report, we can't get to 235, 240 and start pushing right back up in Apple. In my eyes, there's two things that either happen here. China numbers come in and really kind of wreck us. We come down towards the 200 spot and back towards the 200 EMA. And then you'll see, of course, more that downside wave in tech tomorrow, which of course, would catch a lot of traders by surprise. As today, everyone was thinking, they caught all the best dips in technology, but that's how it goes sometimes, right? Yeah. I mean, a lot of bulls on the other side. Let's talk about the numbers, though, because we're about to get those numbers in about 6 minutes here. The technicals are the technicals. Really, when it comes to earnings, guys, there's really no way of doing this. A lot of options traders come in here and they place like bets like far right. They'll place bets like where they just don't think the earnings are going to go to. And that's another strategy. I think that exists in earnings. But when you're trading like stock for an earnings report, I mean, let's just be honest. You're trying to bet on one side and hoping that it comes your way. It's like going to the blackjack table and saying, you know what? I'm not going to be here for 2 hours. I'm just going to be here for 1 minute, one hand.
So remind me again, I see a couple of, you've got your charts and you've got trade to pool, to place the orders and things like that. I see all your widgets. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Has your trading strategy changed because of the leverage that you get with trade to pool now?
I mean, of course. I mean, right now I have up the swing account, but I also have a day trading account where I use up to, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, let's just be honest. There's no other time I'm going to be using that type of money. And it can be quick, right? When I start to trade like that, I've noticed more and more how a lot of traders let trades go and they're looking for this expansion move and it comes back and wipes them out. But if the good traders are doing, they're taking advantage of slight moments in advantage, like right now, like it's 355, right? You just got this attempt breakdown towards 217. Well, you could get in on that 217 just right to the close. 5-minute trade, right? So if I wanted to do that right now, you know what? Let's have some fun.
Are you going to put it on a trade? I'll follow you. Okay, you go ahead and put on a trade.
Yeah.
I'll grab some. I'll grab some.
Right now, I'm locked out of Apple because we're waiting for the earnings. But I would take the trade right here, based off of that bottom right there, right? So you have a bottom to go off of, right? You're gonna get that attempt now that you can get that break right back through the 219 for the close here. And a lot of times, what happens? You got bearish action. Right in the last 5 minutes, we're going to look for an imbalance to come in and that push to go right through 219, 220s. And then the earnings report will come. Right around the VWAP, I think you'll start to get back. And that's where, a lot of the bulls think they got it. And then you're going to have that wick action. That wick action is where you can actually make the best trades. I think so on this earnings report, right?
I'm just curious if I should grab calls or puts. You know how I rock. I don't know.
I personally think this is a call type of day. When you get the bearish move, it helped because Meta's report got us back. Then it comes back down. It kind of been playing that mix, right? Yeah. Microsoft was a down. Meta was an up. Are we going to get another down on Apple? Well, Apple's been disappointing on the last 2 earnings. I think on this earnings, they might have come back. Right? Yeah. They're Apple, right? I mean, you don't bet too many times downward on Apple. But I'm going to go ahead and I'll bring my chart down here so we can talk a little bit more about the numbers, because I think that's really the important thing too, right? And I mean, we can spend all day like looking at the technicals there, but I don't think that really gives us an advantage, right? What we need to really kind of dive into is what's going to happen here and where the focus is going to be, right? So one of the things about Apple is that traditionally in the third quarter, ending in June, is when this quarter ended. So we're actually getting a look into the September month, because September is already, pretty much right here, right? I mean, you got July pretty much done. So we have 1 month into the next quarter outlook that they can already give us a look into that, right? Analysts are forecasting here earnings per share at $1.35, revenue at $84.53 billion for Q3, but more critical will be the guidance for Q4, right? With an expectation right now of $93.39 billion, we need to be focusing on each product line also.
Yeah.
Right? Because when we're looking at iPhone revenue, they got $38.64 billion. It's going to be the look on that, right? iPhone is going to be important because of China also. They had an 8% drop in sales in China on the recent report, right? So if there's for somehow a beat in China, oh yeah, This is going to be rocking back and up to the 225s, 226 area, right? And then when you think about Mac, that could come into play. I don't think too many people focus on Macs or the iPad. Really, it's all about that iPhone revenue. And then wearable accessories, that will come in. The expectation there is 7.83 billion. So focusing on that, you want to be looking to just see that they can just continue to sell the ecosystem, right? And then services is important. That's 24.05 billion. That's going to just continue to show that they're just continue to work that ecosystem. We'll pay attention to Apple Plus because there'll be mentions of probably the NBA and things like that. I know that you're all into that.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
I'm watching the Olympics as much as I can, man. Go USA.
Yeah. And then, of course, one of the important things is going to be Apple's AI strategy, right? Apple's intelligence. Recently, everyone's focusing on that Apple's going to use their own chips in the servers and devices, potentially boosting the demand of the iPhone 15 models. So we need to see what's going to happen here, right? Are they going to make mentions on the call? That's where I think you'll get the AI mentions. So who knows? You might get a down reaction off the earnings and then some good AI mentions later, and the stock just comes roaring back. That's why, like always, I think you and I know Zunaid's, earnings calls are like flipping a coin. It's pretty difficult. And it also depends on that day. That's why I feel more positive, because it's just been such a bloody day, right? So when it's that
you're kind of getting it at a discount,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you wanted Apple yesterday and you saw it up this morning at 224, and you also wanted it, well, then you definitely probably want it at 218 now, right? So you get that discount, which is definitely important. But let's not forget China, because this is the most important thing that is going to be out here, because this was what was scrutinized on the last report. It was an 8% sales drop amid, of course, tough competition, right? So that tough competition here is what's going to be watched. Because if for somehow they can beat on the China numbers, that's when I see this really starting to rock and roll. So we'll see what happens here. Apple's intelligence, probably not mentioned on the report, just going to be looking at that iPhone number, going to be looking at what happened in China. And then also take a look later to see what Tim Cook kind of says about the upcoming iPhone replacement. AI that's coming, right? Of course, he's going to be talking about that. That's during the call, though. And so you have to kind of pay attention later, and you're going to be rocking and rolling during the call here. So you don't got to go anywhere, guys.
You don't, and I appreciate that. You can hang out with us all day long, or I guess all stream long. But by the way, if you want to get a chance to be funded up to $260,000 in buying power, go ahead and check out Trade the Pool. We put the link in the chat. Money Mish uses it all the time with his trading strategies. You kind of, if you're a profitable trader and you believe you've got a strategy that works, but you don't have the funds that you would like to maximize your gains, this is an opportunity for you to use Trade the Pool, trade some equity, and get some leverage to make more money, get the best bang for your buck. Now, for me personally, when it comes to Apple, I've got my screen shared here. I need a tag to 200. That's what I need. I need Apple to come back and touch 200, because ever since it broke, right? Ever since it broke on the 11th or so, it just has not come down. Someone's talking about how Amazon got smoked. So we're going to go kind of around the horn. We'll check out a bunch of other. Yes, sir.
All right, guys. So I'm going to have some fun here, guys. I'm going to take a shot here. I'm going to do a little bit of a different trade, though. So instead of going for Apple, because I can't go for Apple here, I'm going to go for the Qs, right? So that's what I'm going to go for here. I'm just going to go for the Qs. Let me see if I can get it here. Trying to get it out there.
If you want, you can also put your screen back up and I'll share.
Yeah, I got you. I'll get, as soon as I get to Phil here, I'll get up here. Let's see if I can get that. All right, there you go. I got long the Qs here. I'll share up my screen here so you guys can watch me. I'm taking this in my actually my day trading account, but that's the fun part of this, that I can mix around, right? And that's the good thing about having, of course, Trade the Pool, is that you got access to buying power even overnight. I get 10% there on my day trading account, and there it is. You guys got the screen. We can put it up here, and you guys can see the position right now. So this is a position on the Qs to try to take advantage on what? On Apple's up move here, right? So if Apple comes up, the Qs will just kind of follow, right? So we'll watch Apple, but I took the Qs just based on it. Doesn't it look very similar? How apart do these charts look?
I mean, they kind of follow each other, right? It's kind of like, well, you would say it's the heart and soul, but then Nvidia is kind of being the mistress that's taken over. But nonetheless, I get your point with the cues.
Yeah, and then so another thing to react here is, okay, so what if we get these wicks down? Where could the wicks be? So for me, the wicks could be down even towards like 450s here. So you got to be careful with wicks down, like trapping you, and then all of a sudden the ramp back to like 470s, right? And so you got to remember that when you're taking trades here, and that's why I'm small, right? 30 shares is not much, right? 30 shares, I could still add another 30, go to like maybe 60 shares, then trade higher. Just in case I get that wick down, I get an ability to add to it. And so here, the big thing with Trade the Pool is it's giving me the ability to even trade after hours. There's not too many props out there that will give you that opportunity.
I was actually a little surprised that you were trading after hours when you said you're going to grab some Amazon.
Yeah. You see, that's the key, right? I mean, the key is you get some buying power restriction, but I also understand how this is going to work here. This is going to be like a $10 move potentially, right? And so I don't need too much buying power. It's probably a better thing that I don't get access to all of that right now.
Yeah.
Sometimes Trade the Pool can also save you money. And how does it save you money sometimes, Zunaid? Well, there's a lot of traders that will take a big bet here. And guess what happens? Well, Robinhood comes calling tomorrow and says, you guys, you owe me $20,000.
Here's the thing, though. Delete the app.
Ah!
Delete the app, right? That's it.
If it's unrealized, it's never realized, right?
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? I don't have to pay taxes till it's realized. I don't have to pay Robinhood till it's realized. That's the way I live my life.
All right. Well, I got 457.96, so I thought an awesome entry here, right? Look, we're already at 458, right? And so it's not that, I'm going to go too crazy here, right? I was able to get the trade in now. Now we got to watch Apple's reaction, right? Watch the earnings. Of course, we'll be watching the tape to see what happens. Will we get these wicks at first? I kind of expect that. So be careful here. I'm actually going to make it a little wider so we can watch both sides of the action here. And we can, of course, I can add to my cues if anything. I can also go and hedge, right? That's the fun part. If I wanted to, I could also hedge this, right? How could I hedge it? I can go into the SQQQ and go long the SQQQ, right? And hedge that way. That's another way to take a bet here too. So we'll see what happens. First reaction, Apple is down. I actually kind of like that because the first reaction usually is a scare in one way.
What was it, Meta that did that? I mean, you want to talk about something in terms of a scare? We can show Amazon here how you had a dip to the downside. And now you're trying to get right back up. Obviously, they've got a bit of a ways to go. I think maybe about $7 to $10. You've got Intel that's suspending their dividend starting Q4. That is INTC. And you can see the market initially did not like that at all.
The POW says INTC. But one of the things is Apple can lift all tides, man. I've seen it happen before. I've seen it happen before too, where like one other tech stock gets a bad earnings report, but then Apple just kills it. And it's just like, well, we're buying the cues, so we're going to raise this market. Forget Intel. You know what I mean?
So
we'll see what happens there. But man, Intel can never get things right.
It's amazing. You're a leader in chips, and then, you just can't get things right. I mean, just kind of showing my charts here on Intel, and you've got, look at that. They used to be, I don't know if this is all-time highs or not, but at least in terms of factually based, they used to be on the beginning of 2020, slightly pre-COVID, I guess. Coming back to now where we are today, down 62% is Intel.
All right. Still no numbers that I'm seeing in there. Apple's just kind of wicking around.
I think they come out at like 420 or so. Here,
they have a tendency of holding them out there. But look at the cues already kind of giving me a pre-lift, right? So sometimes like this is why I also, like, let's say in the day trading size, usually I have like this big size on right now. I'd have like, let's say maybe like 500 shares. And then if I have that 500 shares, I could already be taking some profits, right? Because then what I do is I use that cushion. This is where most traders get it twisted. They just wait right now because they have like 30 shares like I do, right? And you're in a good position, but you need it to go to take that profit, right? And so different though. If I have sizing, I can take quick little ins and outs, right? 500 shares, it's back up there towards 459. I know I could get a pullback to 458 again. So I could take profit there at 459 and then just look for it to come back and get right back in. That's where a lot of traders, that's what the algorithms are doing. They're stealing the money right underneath our hands and we don't even notice it. but we need to trade like the algorithms. So
Yeah.
that's what I tried to do with Trade the Pool, of course, is just get access to money, get access to trading, and not worrying so much if things go wrong. Because if things go wrong, well, I lose the funded account or I lose the eValve, and we keep going in life.
Yeah.
versus you go live underneath a rock and say you're never going to open up that app again. But we won't talk about that app, right? Poor little rock.
Yeah, no, not even a little bit. But talk to me in terms of so like you still can trade after hours. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you can trade a lot of stocks. Like Apple's on the restriction right now because they're coming out with an earnings. But a lot of times you can trade just about everything after hours, right? Like, so if I wanted to trade, like, let's say Tesla, I could trade Tesla right now, right? And so I think that's the important thing, is getting access to that. And so I really think this is important also in the pre-market, because there's so many times I want to get in the pre-market, and in certain other times I've just waited. And then next thing you know, the stocks like this morning was, right? Where the stocks were just lifting. It would have been a lot easier to been long in the pre-market and taking some gains at the open, which is what happened, man. Trust me. That's what they did to us. And that's why you need to have access to pre-market. Even 4 a.m. would Trade the Pool.
That's
even
awesome.
4 a.m.
That's really cool.
You know what I
really
mean?
like. I didn't know that part.
And you wake up at 3:30, you get your watch list ready. As soon as stocks pop, let's say 20, 40, 60, 100%, you can go shorting these penny stocks. That's a strategy I saw make in the competition, literally $80,000 in one trade.
That's a lot. That's a lot of money. I
don't know about you, but I'll take the $80,000. You can slide it into the account.
Amen to that. You've still got Apple. As soon as they report, you'll see the market react to it. Of course, a lot of things for us to take a look at. The estimates approximately about 84.42 billion. Report. What's up? What are you thinking there?
I'm thinking let's trade Intel. Let me see if I get access to it already. I know it's going to be like kind of blocked right now. Yeah, it's still blocked. It gets unblocked in like 20 to 30 minutes after the report. So we'll get access to it again.
Sometimes people are like, oh, companies block it. But think about it this way. You have people that trade right, then you have gamblers. Trade the Pool is looking for traders that legitimately want to become profitable so that they can go ahead and support their families.
Don't forget, they make a cut also too. So they got some skin in the game too. They want you to win. They'll take the money. You make money, they'll take some money too, right? So
yeah, you've got Snapchat, by the way, that's headed to the downside. You've got a $10 bounce. I love my whole numbers. Snap. So you got Snap tapping 10, trying to figure out where it wants to go. Not a bad spot. If you're trying to get into Snapchat, you think there'll be a little bit of a bounce. Not a bad spot, but I'll be honest, I can't remember the last time
So you can Snapchat. Always do this type of trade, right? So instead of going for Snap, I'd go for Pinterest right now and I'd short it. Let's see it. Let me see if I can get it in.
You don't think that move is kind of like baked in though, because Snap has already, reported and it's already kind of moved to the downside?
But it's lagging. It's just on the lag here. So the key is that you see the support right there, right? So you know where you can get that breakdown. And a lot of times the relationship will just trade. It just trade late, right? It'll just trade a little bit later here. So the truth is that it's not like it's a big trade. Either way, it's 100 shares here. But this is more for kind of the understanding of, hey, there's still ways to trade even these reports. That's why I'm trading the Qs, right? So just because they're blocking me on Apple doesn't mean I don't have this right here. And I know how the market works, man. And so I think that's an important thing too. Like, let's say on Apple, you could also do like an ETF, like SMH, right? And go for the semiconductor ETF, right? And then give yourself some diversity in the trade, a little less risk than going straight for Apple or even the Qs for that sake, right? So yeah. I think many different ways to kind of go after this. And the fun part is SMH takes a small hit there on Intel, gives you the pullback to almost, then if Apple beats it, gives it a little bit of that ability, right? So it takes that small pullback because of Intel here and then could really push if Apple beats.
All right. Well, we'll see if it does actually go and do that. Snapchat now breaking $10. Share my charts here. We'll go kind of around the horn. You've got Snapchat that broke 10 for a moment. It's trying to reclaim it, trying to move back to the upside. You've got Intel that did go ahead and take a down hit. I mean, at this point, you're kind of like, hey, everything has been taking a hit to the downside. Some companies got to go to the upside. It might just be Apple. Who knows? That's not the way I invest or trade. But you've got INTC, Intel to the downside there as well. You've got Amazon taking a hit to the downside, bouncing right back up, trying to reclaim the 173 and hold. Now it's at 177. And of course, we'll see what Apple ends up doing on their earnings. Still waiting. Everyone is waiting to see what's going to go ahead and happen with Apple. Amazon was interesting because you tried to go ahead and break 200. You kind of did for a little bit. And then it was like, no, nothing really happening there. Then you come back and this 191 level ends up being resistance. Now you're in that 173 ending up being support. So to me, the range on Amazon is right between these two. It's between the 192 and the 174 area. That's where we've got to see one of these things levels break and then hold and then go ahead and plan accordingly. Let's see. Let's take a look at a similar story here where you had, let me go back to, you talked about support and resistance. Here's NVIDIA. You had support, broke, resistance. Another example in the same time frame, support, break, resistance, broke, support, came right back down. So, you always got to go and look left, see where support is, see if that's going to act as resistance after it gets broken and vice versa. Well, was resistance to be support there as well. You seeing any other movement in the charts?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit about Amazon's numbers, right? I mean, they've already come in here, and it's not a bad report. It did actually get a down move on it, and so that's interesting there. For pins, I think it's going to get that down action right now. I can kind of short it bigger just to kind of get that down. So let's see if I can get 31s here, and I'll add another like 300 shares here just to get the trade in. It's already coming down there, and now it's at 90. It's probably not going to come back to that 31, but already starting to get in the green there. It's nothing big, but I'll be keeping an eye on that. Amazon's numbers here, $1.26 beating the $1.03 estimate. Sales of 147.97, missed the 148.557 billion. So a miss on the sales is what's viewed here as the negative. Of course, they'll be talking about that. There's a soft Q3 guidance included in there. So that, of course, affecting them. But hey, you guys see it. It's not really much here. It's what? On the down, it's about 6%. So it's still fading. That's causing the Qs to fade a little bit, right? So I'm still hanging in it because Apple could just come in here and kill it.
We'll
shake
see
things
if Apple
around.
Does have a move to the upside.
How does Apple do this? How does Apple do this, Nate? How does Apple
just wait?
Yeah. How does Apple just wait? How does that work?
They're the top 3 companies in the world.
That.
They could do whatever they want to do. What you want to do?
There's always like that crazy company. I traded Carnival Cruise Lines when their earnings comes out because they're very similar to this, but in the morning. They do the 9 a.m. release. Right before the market release. So I traded NCLH because of course it was going to block me on Carnival. So I just said, I'll just trade the other cruise line. If I see a good report, I'm going long. It worked, baby. Nice. It worked. You know what I mean? So I think that's what we need to be watching here with Apple, right? So good report on Apple. Maybe we just go and we say, well, they're going to just say, forget Amazon's down report. It's going to come right back. I could see Amazon green tomorrow. Watch. If Apple goes and rips it, Amazon green tomorrow, even though on a bad report, right? Or at least for right now, the articles and the journalists right now are
they're not looking too pretty.
They're all typing up the bad report article right now. They're like, Amazon misses on sales, soft guidance. Let's see where Apple comes in.
Here's a good point. You've got Walter talking about, hey, the earnings will come out around 4:30 possibly, and that's because you can trade stocks you can trade options in terms of the Qs and the SPY till 4:15. And like you said yourself, Apple has such a weighted on those things. So they're like, you know what? We'll wait for that to close. You guys can wait till tomorrow to see what you want to do. But yeah, we'll see. Apple still waiting. You got Roku that went ahead and had a nice little reaction to the earnings as that moves to the upside. You've got Amazon that's coming down. Now trying to figure out if it's going to stay around the 173 and hold. You've got Snapchat to the downside. Again, that $10 level is hanging on for dear life because that's the psychological level. Once that breaks, look, oh my God, look at Snapchat from the beginning of time. What a ride Snapchat has had. Just ugly. Man.
That's just for ugly. Sure. That's
right?
For
I mean,
sure.
Like, what is it? Down 96%, give or take. Just insane. But you got here, let's take a look at Snapchat's levels here for a moment. Not that it might, I don't know if it'll ever get there, but you've got a resistance around, say, 18 bucks or so. Now we're looking for support to hold. Because see, it was here around 10 bucks before. It was at 10 bucks around earnings or so, April 17th, bounced from 10, went all the way to about the 17. It's like a 70%. And then you go ahead and come on back. Yeah, Walter, that's what I was talking about. I was like, look at this rip. They were at $5 at one point, and then they made a huge run all the way, and then they kind of came back down. Just insane. So here they were, moved to the upside, now coming back down. We'll see what ends up happening with that. Let's go back and take a look at Intel and see if they've recovered a little bit. Got about 11 minutes till we check out Apple's earnings. How's your Intel trade working out? What's happening there?
Well, I got pins and I got the Qs. So that's what I got on right now. So the Qs long, that's actually red right now. That's got 457.96. We're down to 457. What I'm looking for is that wick on Apple's earnings to be on the downside. And I'm going to actually be trying to read that wick. That's the hardest thing, right? Reading a wick is the hardest thing because you're catching a falling knife. So I'll wait for it to like kind of click, 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 and then boom, take the shot, right? And it has to be literally like that because that's how it is. It's usually like 10 seconds on the downside, and then it wicks right back. It's going to move all around too, where you got to be careful, right? And that's going to be hard because you're going to always see it spread out, right? So like right now, it's pretty tight on the Qs, right? That's 457. It's only a 7-cent spread, right? And so right when Apple's report comes out, all the market makers, they go wide. Yeah. They're like, you know what? We're not giving you tight spread anymore.
I just got a text and it says, is that you on the Benzinga stream I see? Let me go ahead and confirm. Yes, it is.
Hold on.
In the middle of the show, so I can't text you back. Yeah, I can't text you back just yet. But it's always funny whenever I get text.
Is this the robot Zunaid or the real?
Well, we are in the world of AI, which again, we know we're waiting on Apple to see what they end up doing there in the AI space, working with ChatGPT, OpenAI to see what type of content they can create. I'm excited to see what type of capabilities outside of Siri, which to me is somewhat AI, nothing too crazy on that side. We have capable on the iPhone that's going to come out. I think that might be one where I'm like, okay, AI already makes my life a little easier. I might have to go and upgrade to the latest iPhone. I typically don't care, but this time I might have to. And again, folks, if you want to go ahead and get funded up to $260,000, check out Trade the Pool. You can also have the capability to trade earnings. So you can trade after hours as well. So something to go ahead and check out. We're about 9 minutes away from Apple reporting their earnings.
And really, I mean, the move to do here is like looking into kind of taking these trades, and the swing trade accounts is something that I think is really awesome. They jumped into. This is something relatively new. So if you guys don't know, Trade the Pool does have swing trading evals, and I think that's amazing because really that's my bread and butter, man. I can just sit back, relax, and swing trade all day. Some traders can't handle going to sleep for trades, but to tell you the truth, when you have low position size is when you're going to feel the most comfortable in trades. Yeah, I'll tell you that right now, man, because the truth is that you just don't have that much capital exposed, and that always helps you out, right?
Now, can you have more than one account? How does that work?
Yeah, you can have more than one account. You can have a day trading one, and then you can go also for the swing trading one. So like a recent trade that I did on Intel was when it started to kind of prop up there. And I always put out like a playbook, and I'm always putting out like plays like that. Like AMD was a beautiful one, man. I rolled this thing up and sold it at 179. Wow. I didn't get 187, but I'll take the 179 sell, right? You know what I mean? And I got that at 157. on the downside. So 157 to 187 or 180, 179. That's not too bad at all. That's like we're talking 23 points.
Yeah.
And you don't need money. You don't need big size for that, right? Like even 100 shares, 23 points. I mean, you're making bank, right?
You want to talk about, different someone who's making big bets. You've got MicroStrategy, ticker MSTR. They went ahead and reported, but I don't really see a lot of movement happening from this. I mean, I'm not sure how the market reacted to this. I believe they went ahead and reported. I saw it across the ticker here on the bottom. So MicroStrategy, and you want to talk about a range that they were in, broke 1,000. We talked about the whole numbers. You can see that they went ahead and retested 1,000, got resistance met at about 1743s or so. So many times, knocked on the door, finally broke through, said, gotcha, psych. And to the downside, we come back in the middle of the range here, if you will. Go ahead and check back in on Amazon. Of course, this ticker, you had a reaction negative to the downside initially. You got a chance to go ahead and get back up, but not all the way to the previous close that we had at 4 o'clock. We'll see if the earnings call itself can give it a bit of a lift on that. Mitch, you're going to hang out for another 6 minutes to see the Apple report? What are you thinking here?
Let's do it, man. I'll tell you what, just to kind of give myself the ability to bet on Apple here, because that's what I'm here for. Not really to bet on pins. I'm going to take the money off on pins, but that's just to give myself the buying power in the Qs. But you guys see it. It's in the green. I took a little trade there. It went to 31.90s. That's why you need the big size though, right? I mean, but pins was an easy setup. Snaps going down, dragging it. Well, I'll just take the 10 cents, right? Like that's the kind of trade that you see Dennis Dick make. I'll tell you guys right now, that's the type of trade that guy makes right there. But he'll make
a lot
with
bigger size for sure.
Yeah, exactly. With a lot bigger size. So he just took that lunch. He was like, oh, well, you guys are going to give me like no action on pins and snap goes down to 10. Well, I mean, it's probably going to at least give me 10 cents, 20 cents. Maybe it doesn't give you $1 reaction, but 10 cents, good size. If it's available to you there, hey, you can't go wrong.
Yeah. Especially if you've got the leverage with trade the pool. What else you want to talk about? We've got about 5 minutes till the print.
So now it's tried to set up for this print or in kind of the down reaction, right? So 454s is, I think, the area where I would love to kind of add in there. So I'm going to set that up there. I'm going to first try to do like kind of a ladder approach, right? And ladder approaches are so smart, guys. Ladder approach means what? So I put in 2 orders or multiple orders to try to get that fill size, right? And so right now I'm trying to put in a couple different orders here, trying to see how much I can get in, right, with my buying power. So right now I'm going to have to separate this up a little bit. Let me switch this up. So I got a couple of orders out there. I'm going to put some out at 452 for a reaction, kind of down action here. All right, there you go. So I got some at 454 and 452 to add for just like slight wicks down, right? Yeah. So I'm going to show you this here on the right on the trade the pool charts, right? Of course, I use different charting. You got to have tools, man. We use Benzinga Pro on trade the pool, guys. I mean, you got to have your tools, right? So here you guys see it right on the chart. You guys see where I'm long from, right? Let's zoom back a little bit here. I'll go back on the 5 minutes so we can kind of see the action here. And then now you guys see those nice little kind of limits to kind of add. And I always like the ladder approach where you take a small amount early and you're laddering down and then going for the big swing. Why? Because the truth is that majority of us traders are going to be off on timing. That's just the truth of life. I mean, you always want to be right on time, but the truth is when you're right on time, you're not right on time. You're probably late 10 minutes. Zunaid knows all about that.
I meant that.
But
because you were late today. I just want to let people know Mitch was the reason that we started 3 minutes late because he showed up late. I just want to make that very clear.
Oh, the
shot. 3 minutes. We've got 3 minutes till the break.
Oh, but let's see the action here now. And so the truth is that if you go small early, then really size in once you're starting to get the trade in your favor. That's what I've seen the biggest traders make their money.
Hang on now. Check out Apple. You're making lows compared to, regular sessions. You're making new lows. No, Apple.
Yeah. Making new lows. And this is the scare. There's always a scare. The scare is going to be first. That's the way I see it here. It has to be. Because if it's going up right now, what would people be doing? Probably hitting that buy button, right? Very hard to hit the buy button when Apple's doing this. Let's just be honest. Who's probably hitting that?
Man, look, like I said, for me, I need it to come on back and touch 200. On the daily, it has not retested 200. That is where I am ready to rock and roll. And as you say, use trade the pool, get my leverage in, and kind of go gung ho on it. $200 for Apple. We're less than 2 minutes away from when the print on Apple should be coming out, 4:30. And then, of course, after that at 5 o'clock, we will have the earnings call right here. You don't need to go anywhere.
I'm gonna pull it down. You guys are gonna watch me do this live too. The fun part of the trade the pool app.
Can you do a double screen so have Apple on one and Q's on the other?
Oh, for sure, man. All day. That's as easy as let's just pop this baby out. Let's pull another chart. We'll pull this out. We'll put it on the right hand side, right? So you can do this also on a grid. Let's just pop a grid. Come on, man. Come on, Mitch. You know how to do this, baby. All right. So we're gonna do a two by two, right? Boom. Yep.
Let's take a look at Apple.
Let's put this one in Apple. All right. And then we'll do the Qs on the left. You guys see it? Boy knows how to work that system. Let's go.
All right. So they're both on the 5 now.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're less than a minute away.
Here, guys. Let's see what happens.
This is like New Year's. It's like we're all just saying less than a minute away. Less than 30 seconds away.
Less than 30 seconds.
Oh, you know what I'd love to do?
Here.
Oh my God, here's what I'd love to do. Hold on.
Dun, dun, dun. Earnings 3 minutes. Who's going to win?
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share my chart here just real quick. About 5 seconds to go.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Getting ready to rock and roll here, guys. Let's see it. First reaction down to 215, but first reaction didn't matter because it went down to 215, back to 218. So here's the 218. There's 220. We're moving, baby. I'm trying to step up and buy some on the Qs here. All right, I just stepped up a little bit there. Now I need to look for the down fake to the downside. Don't overreact. So now on the Qs, at least for me, I feel like there's going to be some attempt to the downside here. So now we're getting this both mixed reaction here. Here's another dip down, right? You see the wick. The wick is long right now on Apple. Let's take a look how long that was. The high right there going towards 221.90s. The low there, 214. Let's see if it takes that 221 or 221.90. So 222 is what we're looking for on upside continuation. There it goes, mixing all around there, guys. 218.17s. I want to see on Apple here, time and sales. See how that's rolling in there. Looking for some big boy orders to flow through there. 2,000 shares. You must be brave, whoever's doing that.
Well, I will say this. Coming back to my chart here real quick on Apple, right? We drew out the support level for obvious reasons. And we said, look, whenever it comes to Apple, you had support that was broken. Or excuse me, you had resistance that was broken and held on to support. Then as we went and continued with some action later on, you also went ahead and had that level again, hold on to support. And even right here with the earnings print coming out, it went all the way. The support that I had was 215. It hit around 214. So $1 off there. And it bounces right back up. That $6 move. You know, you can also take a look at NVIDIA. Of course, they're not the ones who reported yet, but you also have NVIDIA that hit 100.
Numbers are out. Numbers are out. It's a beat on EPS and a beat on revenue. It's a beat and a beat, baby. I'm stepping up in the Qs.
You've got here, let me put the charts back up.
I'm trying to step up in the Qs, man.
Your Apple chart is so high we can't even all the way see the wick. So all right, tell me your entry on the Qs now.
All right, so it's nothing insane either, too, because the Qs are going to move a little bit more muted than the Apple, right? Than overall. So I got 457.92s. It's only 45 shares. I'm not going crazy, guys. I'm just having some fun. But I'm looking for the move to take out 460 now. That would be the move on the Qs that can go higher, right? If that happens, then we start to really kind of start to move back. 460s, 461, then you start to move back 465 and 470 starts being into play. So gonna just look for Apple to continue the move, right? And now I think you go to the 1 minute on Apple and you start to look, okay, so where did we get to? We got all the way up to 224. The only thing you don't want to see now is take out the low before the print. So that's what I start to look at. So like, let's say 216.54. So that's my downside moment. Oh,
yeah.
We'll be right back after these moments.
I love it. Well, look, here's the thing. You had a Q3 You had the iPad sales, right? That kind of beat there on a
Oh, there you
7.16
go.
compared to
Who's coming in with
6.84.
the pro numbers? I love this.
Oh, that'll be my man, Michael Feehan. Did I just give out the government name? I think I did. I'm just kidding. You've got, Apple right there, quarter 3. You've got the Mac sales there as well, 7 billion compared to 6.84 prior. So they're growing, even wearables. That's something that a lot of people wanted to focus on, slightly under in terms of the prior, but $8 billion for what people always said, oh, there's no innovation. They're just copying. Well, shoot, if I can make 8 billion copying somebody, if I can make 8,000 copying somebody, sign me up.
All right. So the iPhone revenue was at 38.64 was the estimate. It went at 39.29. So not too bad. Not too bad. A big, nice beat there on the iPhone sales. That's what I wanted to see. That makes me feel confident that I don't think it'll take the downside now. But that's just from the number, right? Because there's always something that's the focus. That's that. Like, let's say in Microsoft, it was Azure, right? Immediately it was whatever happened. I don't know, but what happened in cloud, right? And so in here in Apple, it's going to be what happened in China and what happened in iPhones.
Yeah.
And then in the call, it's going to be all about Apple Intelligence. Get ready. How many times will they say AI? I know my man Nick out there
without saying AI.
They'll say it. They'll say Apple Intelligence though.
Yeah.
That's a difference. That's a difference.
They won't say artificial is the main thing.
Yeah.
But all right, man. Any final thoughts from you?
I'm going to get out of here, guys, but I'm going to have some fun, of course, in the competition. We wrap up tomorrow. So trade the pool, baby. Check it out, guys. You guys can be getting buying power yourself. And the main thing here is to get the opportunity to trade. And like all other traders, right? We're all looking to go ahead and see if we can do this and be full-time, provide for our families, and not just provide, right? But do a nice wealth move, what a lot of traders are looking for, right? Go from where, hey, you're driving that Civic in the front to at least you're getting a nice Mercedes, right? Maybe not the Lamborghini, but the Mercedes is available to you guys out there. Of course, you guys get things right. Processed approach. Go find out if Trade the Pool is for you guys. Like always, you guys can just go to the link. Link will, of course, will always be down below in the description. Check out Trade the Pool, guys. It was great to be back with you, Zunaid. I had a great time, of course.
Pleasure,
I
brother.
always love Benzinga. Always check you guys out all the time. I even catch your show on another prop we won't mention here, but
I appreciate it. I appreciate the love to me personally. But if you want to trade equities, there's no better place. Trade the Pool. Check them out. Up to $260,000 in buying power. That's Money Mitch. Drop your Twitter handle or your X handle so people can go follow you, pal.
Yeah, man. And it's just that Money Mitch _TTP. Make it simple, guys. We'll see you guys over like always. Stick around like always. There's going to be more. Zunaid will get you guys over to the earnings call. So that's where the fireworks are going to start off again. So stay tuned for that, guys. Have a great one. Thanks for joining. And guys, let me know when you guys want me back. I'm always willing to come on. Awesome. I love the Zinger Nation, and I wish you guys the best. Keep going, guys. See you next time.
Appreciate you, pal. See you next time. We're going to go and put up the Apple chart. I'm going to bounce here in a few minutes because, your boy's got to go grab some lunch. We were waiting for the Apple report. We got the Apple report. I'm going to now put this chart up. Matter of fact, my man Feehan is going to go ahead and put his charts up shortly. Don't go anywhere. We will have the Apple's earning calls as well. But here's what we'll do. For the folks that might not, be familiar with who we are and what's happening, why don't I go and take a look at some charts? Throw out some tickers. I've got some time. My Uber Eats hasn't arrived yet, so I've got some time. Drop some tickers in the chat. I'll go over them real quick for about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll go ahead and check out the Apple's earnings call to see what my man Tim Apple has to say. I kind of wanted to get calls, but I was scared and I wanted to get puts. But at the moment, it looks like it might just be IV Crush. So who really knows? The first one is Austin coming in with Mara. This isn't 1 trillion. This is 1 tick. Only degenerates that have a high dopamine need. We'll take a look at 1 tick. We'll go ahead and check out Mara here. All right. Taking a look at the levels, the first thing that I notice is that you have support here. All right. So if we go ahead and look left, matter of fact, let me extend this puppy a bit. Going all the way back to 2023 in August, almost a year ago, you have support that was drawn right here. Resistance that was right there, which turned into support, held as support, and now we go ahead and check it out. Of course, you've got earnings That's currently trading around 18 bucks. I think 14 bucks is where my support line is. That's where I'd be hanging out. If you're looking for anything else, they'd be weaker support points. For me, it's the $14 area. Let's go and check out NVIDIA, ticker NVDA on this one. This was just hitting resistance over and over again. What is that? A Tim McGraw Nelly song, I think. But you've got resistance here. You had resistance. You had resistance. But how does this resistance come into play? We got to look all the way. When you had a blast through, you came back and you tested it as support. So just like we pointed it out last time with Mara, I'm going to do it again here. You continuously had the level of 117 holding on as support, 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 support. Then that support gets broken. And now we just take this handy dandy. And now that turns into resistance, 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 resistance again. Pops up, holds a support, but then it breaks. It just couldn't do it. Faked everybody out. Downside move. 106 is holding on. And look, if you're new to trading, the number one thing that I can tell you that it helped me become a better trader was paying attention to whole numbers. And the reason I bring that up with NVIDIA is you'll see that it tested $100 right here. Tested $100 in the after hours. I think this might have been when AMD reported. I'm not quite sure. Tested 100, moved to the upside for about 20 bucks. That's a 20% gain that I think you had in just one day. We checked out Mara, we checked out NVIDIA, and then we got the earnings print for Apple, ticker AAPL. Initial move was a little mixed. Then we went to the upside, downside, upside again. Now we're trying to figure life out. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Oh, there's another one by Kevin. All right, Kevin, you went ahead and squeezed a ticker inside right when I was about to leave. So we'll hang out with you. All right. I went ahead and mentioned, support turning into resistance, resistance turning into support. This is obviously Celsius, not a ticker I trade, but obviously a ticker that I did have some markings on. Support, you had resistance, broke through, held this support, then you got a little bit of trickery area, but the $60 level keeps to be key. I mentioned whole numbers to you just a minute ago, didn't I? Let's see how the $50 area reacted when it touched that. Let's see if it's clean or if it's a little bit dirty, but still playable. All right, $50 area, missed it by 42 cents, but it held as support, and you got a $2 move from that. Doesn't always work, but it's a good way to possibly get yourself in a little bit of a better position. Here's another $50. After it broke, that $50 on to the penny ended up being resistance. Support to resistance, resistance to support. Utilize whole numbers. Nothing in life is guaranteed, but it does help you out and it does make you a better trader. All right, y'all, that's going to do it for me. We'll be right. The stream isn't going anywhere. You don't have to click anywhere. We'll be staying right here to talk about the earnings print. So make sure you guys hang tight. We'll have the earnings call for you here in just a few moments. I believe that starts at 5 o'clock. Let me go ahead and check out anything else here. And yeah, we'll be right back. We'll put the charts up for you.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Apple Q3 Fiscal Year 2024 Earnings Conference Call. My name is Suhasini Chandramouli, Director of Investor Relations. Today's call is being recorded. Speaking first today is Apple CEO Tim Cook, and he'll be followed by CFO Luca Maestri. After that, we'll open the call to questions from analysts. Please note that some of the information you'll hear during our discussion today will consist of forward-looking statements, including, without limitation, those regarding revenue, gross margin, operating expenses, other income and expense, taxes, capital allocation, and future business outlook, including the potential impact of macroeconomic conditions on the company's business and results of operations. These statements involve risks and uncertainties that may cause actual results or trends to differ materially from our forecast. For more information, please refer to the risk factors discussed in Apple's most recently filed annual report on Form 10-K and the Form 8-K filed with the SEC today, along with the associated press release. Apple assumes no obligation to update any forward-looking statements, which speak only as of the date they are made. I'd now like to turn the call over to Tim for introductory remarks.
Thank you, Suhasini. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining the call. Today, Apple is reporting a new June quarter revenue record of $85.8 billion, up 5% from a year ago and better than we had expected. EPS grew double digits to $1.40 and achieved a record for the June quarter. We also set quarterly revenue records in more than 24 countries and regions, including Canada, Mexico, France, Germany, the UK, India, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Thailand. And we set an all-time revenue record in services, which grew 14%. At our Worldwide Developers Conference, we were thrilled to unveil game-changing updates across our platforms, including Apple Intelligence. Apple Intelligence builds on years of innovation and investment in AI and machine learning. It will transform how users interact with technology, from writing tools to help you express yourself, to Image Playground, which gives you the ability to create fun images and communicate in new ways, to powerful tools for summarizing and prioritizing notifications. Siri also becomes more natural, more useful, and more personal than ever. Apple Intelligence is built on a foundation of privacy, both through on-device processing that does not collect users' data and through private cloud compute, a groundbreaking new approach to using the cloud while protecting users' information, powered by Apple Silicon. We are also integrating ChatGPT into experiences within iPhone, Mac, and iPad, enabling users to draw on a broad base of world knowledge. We are very excited about Apple Intelligence, and we remain incredibly optimistic about the extraordinary possibilities of AI and its ability to enrich customers' lives. We will continue to make significant investments in this technology and dedicate ourselves to the innovation that will unlock its full potential. Recently, we've also been excited to bring Apple Vision Pro to more countries, giving customers the chance to discover the remarkable capabilities of this magical device. Vision Pro users are customizing their own workspaces, watching movies on 100-foot screens, and exploring entire worlds with just a pinch of their fingertips. With more than 2,500 native spatial apps and 1.5 million compatible apps for Vision OS, the developer community continues to pioneer stunning spatial experiences that are only possible with Vision Pro. Last month, we announced that we're bringing some amazing new immersive content to Vision Pro, including new series, concerts, films, and more. And we've seen great interest for Vision Pro in the enterprise, where it can empower companies large and small to pursue their best ideas like never before. With each innovation, we're unlocking new ways of working, new ways of learning, and new ways of tapping into the unlimited promise of human potential. We're doing that across every product and every service. Now let me share more detail on our June quarter results, beginning with iPhone. iPhone revenue was $39.3 billion, down 1% year over year. On a constant currency basis, we grew compared to last year. Customers continue to praise the iPhone 15 lineup for its incredible battery life, exceptional cameras, and unmatched power and performance. And we are excited to bring incredible new features to the iPhone with iOS 18, making it more personal, capable, and intelligent than ever before. This update includes the biggest redesign of the Photos app, new customization options for the home screen, messages over satellite, and the introduction of Apple Intelligence. Apple Intelligence utilizes the power of our most advanced iPhones, the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, offering a transformative set of capabilities. Mac revenue was $7 billion, up 2% from a year ago. Customers are loving the latest M3-powered 13 and 15-inch MacBook Air. With back-to-school season upon us, MacBook Air is the perfect companion for students on campus. And small business owners, developers, and creatives of all kinds depend on Mac to do more than they ever could before. Powered by Apple Silicon with its neural engine and privacy built in at the chip level, Macs are simply the best personal computers for AI. And every Mac we've shipped with Apple Silicon since 2020 is capable of taking advantage of Apple Intelligence with macOS Sequoia. We also know the importance of security for our users and enterprises, so we continue to advance protections across our products. Turning to iPad, revenue was $7.2 billion, 24% higher year over year. During the quarter, we had an incredible launch where we unveiled the all-new 11 and 13-inch iPad Air, the perfect device for education, entertainment, and so much more. And with the new iPad Pro, we pushed the boundaries of power-efficient performance with the remarkable M4 chip, the engine behind this incredibly thin device. By leveraging the latest in Apple Silicon, video editors and musicians can take advantage of the cutting-edge AI features in Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro. And we're very excited that iPad Pro and iPad Air models powered by the M series of Apple Silicon will be able to utilize the powerful capabilities of Apple Intelligence. In wearables, home, and accessories, revenue was $8.1 billion, down 2% from a year ago. Apple Watch is empowering users to live a healthier day with a range of tools to take charge of their wellness journeys. At the core of Apple Watch are powerful AI features that are helping users get help when they need it most, from irregular heart rhythm notifications to walking steadiness to crash detection and fall detection. I've heard time and again how meaningful these features are for users and their loved ones, and their stories motivate us to keep pushing forward on this vital work. As I mentioned earlier, in services, we set an all-time revenue record of $24.2 billion, with paid subscriptions climbing to an all-time high. We achieved revenue records in the majority of the services categories, with all-time revenue records in advertising, cloud, and payment services. Apple TV Plus productions are delighting audiences on screens large and small. We're sharing powerful works of imagination with series and movies like Presumed Innocent, the upcoming Disclaimer, and The Instigator starring Matt Damon. And we can't wait for returning fan favorites with new seasons of The Morning Show, Slow Horses, and Severance. Apple TV Plus productions also continue to earn accolades with nearly 2,300 nominations and 500 wins to date. That includes 72 Emmy Award nominations across 16 programs, our best ever showing for the upcoming awards event. During the quarter, we also expanded Tap to Pay on iPhone to more markets, including Japan, Canada, Italy, and Germany, enabling more businesses to use the power of iPhone to accept contactless payments. And we announced new updates to our services coming this fall, including U.S. National Park hikes and custom walk routes and Apple Maps, the ability to pay with rewards using Apple Pay, collaborative listening with Apple Music, and a redesigned Apple Fitness Plus experience to help users make the most of our library of workouts and meditations. Turning to retail, we continue to expand in emerging markets with our first ever location in Malaysia. Customers from all over the country came together with our team members to celebrate this special moment. Elsewhere in the world, our teams have been sharing the magic of Apple Vision Pro in demos that delight, inspire, and deeply move customers exploring the wonders of spatial computing for the first time. At the heart of all of our innovations are the values that guide everything we do. We believe fundamentally that the best technology is technology that works for everyone. And in honor of Global Accessibility Awareness Day, we introduced all new capabilities to give users more ways to take advantage of all our products can do. These include eye tracking for users to control iPhone or iPad visually, music haptics to give those who are deaf or hard of hearing a tangible way to experience music, and vocal shortcuts that tie tasks to a user's voice. And we are committed as ever to shipping products that offer the highest standards of privacy for our users. With everything we do, whether it's offering a browser like Safari that prevents third parties from tracking you across the internet, or providing new features like the ability to lock and hide apps, we are determined to keep our users in control of their own data. And we are just as dedicated to ensuring the security of our users' data. That's why we work to minimize the amount of data we collect and work to maximize how much is processed directly on people's devices, a foundational principle that is at the core of all we build, including Apple Intelligence. And we continue to make significant progress on the environment. We are proud to say that all of our data centers, including those that will run private cloud compute, operate on 100% renewable energy. At Apple, we're constantly accelerating our pace of innovation. We are a company in relentless pursuit of big ideas. Time and again, we've seen how a spark of creativity can reach breakthrough velocity, reach across previously unexplored dimensions, and ultimately take flight in ways that can change the world. It's why we're going to keep investing in the meaningful innovation that enriches the lives of all of our customers. We have a busy time ahead of us, and I couldn't be more excited for all the amazing things yet to come. With that, I'll turn it over to Luca.
Thank you, Tim, and good afternoon, everyone. We're very pleased to report a new June quarter revenue record of $85.8 billion, up 5% year over year, despite 230 basis points of negative foreign exchange impact. We achieved growth in the vast majority of our markets, with June quarter revenue records in the Americas, Europe, and rest of Asia Pacific. Products revenue was $61.6 billion, up 2% year over year, driven by the launch of the new iPad Pro and iPad Air. Our installed base of active devices reached an all-time high across all products and geographic segments, thanks to our unmatched levels of customer satisfaction and loyalty, and a large number of customers who are new to our products. Services revenue reached an all-time record of $24.2 billion, up 14% year over year, with an all-time record in developed markets and a June quarter record in emerging markets. Company gross margin was 46.3%, near the high end of our guidance range, and down 30 basis points sequentially, driven by a different mix within products, which was partially offset by a favorable mix shift towards services and cost savings. Products gross margin was 35.3%, down 130 basis points sequentially, primarily driven by mix, partially offset by favorable costs. Services gross margin was 74%, down 60 basis points from last quarter. Operating expenses of $14.3 billion were at the low end of the guidance range we provided and up 7% year over year. Net income was $21.4 billion. Diluted EPS of $1.40 was up 11% year over year and set a June quarter record. And operating cash flow was very strong at $28.9 billion, also a June quarter record. Let me get into more detail for each of our revenue categories. iPhone revenue was $39.3 billion, down 1% year over year, but grew on a constant currency basis. We set June quarter records across several countries, including the UK, Spain, Poland, Mexico, Indonesia, and the Philippines. And the iPhone active installed base grew to a new all-time high in total and in every geographic segment. During the June quarter, many iPhone models were among the top-selling smartphones around the world. In fact, according to a survey from Kantar, iPhone was the top-selling model in the US, urban China, the UK, Germany, Australia, and Japan. Customer satisfaction on the iPhone 15 family continues to be extremely high, with 451 Research measuring it at 98% in the US in their latest reports. Mac generated $7 billion in revenue, up 2% year over year, driven by the MacBook Air powered by the M3 chip. We saw particularly strong performance in our emerging markets, with June quarter records for Mac in Latin America, India, and South Asia. The Mac installed base reached an all-time high, with half of MacBook Air customers in the quarter being new to Mac. And customer satisfaction for Mac was recently reported at 96% in the US. iPad revenue was $7.2 billion, up 24% year over year, driven by the launch of the new iPad Pro and iPad Air. Customers are loving the latest iPad lineup for its new design and display, unparalleled performance, AI capabilities, and much more. The iPad installed base has continued to grow and is at an all-time high, as half of the customers who purchased iPads during the quarter were new to the product. Also, customer satisfaction was recently measured at 97% in the US. Wearables, home, and accessories revenue was $8.1 billion, down 2% year over year, a sequential acceleration from the March quarter. Watch and AirPods continue to face a difficult compare against prior year launches of the AirPods Pro second generation, the Watch SE, and the first Watch Ultra. Apple Watch continues to attract new customers, with almost two-thirds of customers purchasing an Apple Watch during the quarter being new to the product, sending the Apple Watch installed base to a new all-time high. And the latest reports from 451 Research indicated customer satisfaction of 97% for Watch in the US. In services, total revenue reached an all-time record of $24.2 billion, growing 14% year-over-year. We continue to have great momentum in services as the growth of our installed base of active devices sets a strong foundation for the future expansion of our ecosystem. And we see increased customer engagement with our services offerings. Both transacting accounts and paid accounts reach a new all-time high, with paid accounts growing double digits year-over-year. Also, paid subscriptions showed strong double-digit growth. We have well over 1 billion paid subscriptions across the services on our platform, more than double the number that we had only 4 years ago. And we're constantly focused on improving the breadth and quality of our services, from critically acclaimed new content on Apple TV+, to new games on Apple Arcade, and the many latest features we previewed during WWDC for iCloud, Apple Pay, Apple Cash, Apple Music, and more. Turning to enterprise, we continue to see businesses leveraging our entire suite of products to drive productivity and creativity for their teams and customers. USAA, a leading insurance and financial services company, recently expanded beyond their existing iPhone and iPad deployments to provide their employees with the latest MacBook Air. And American Express has continued to add to their fleet of over 10,000 Macs to enhance their employees' productivity, security, and collaboration. We're also excited to see leading organizations such as Boston Children's Hospital and Lufthansa using Apple Vision Pro to build innovative spatial computing experiences to transform the training of their workforces. Let me now turn to our cash position and capital return program. We ended the quarter with $153 billion in cash and marketable securities. We repaid $4.3 billion in maturing debt and increased commercial paper by $1 billion, leaving us with total debt of $101 billion. As a result, net cash was $52 billion at the end of the quarter. During the quarter, we returned over $32 billion to shareholders, including $3.9 billion in dividends and equivalents and $26 billion through open market repurchases of 139 million Apple shares. As we move ahead into the September quarter, I'd like to review our outlook, which includes the types of forward-looking information that Suhasini referred to at the beginning of the call. The color we're providing today assumes that the macroeconomic outlook doesn't worsen from what we are projecting today for the current quarter. We expect foreign exchange to continue to be a headwind and to have a negative impact on revenue of about 1.5 percentage points on a year-over-year basis. We expect our September quarter total company revenue to grow year-over-year at a rate similar to the June quarter. We expect services revenue to grow double digits at a rate similar to what we reported in the first 3 quarters of this fiscal year. We expect gross margin to be between 45.5% and 46.5%. We expect OpEx to be between $14.2 and $14.4 billion. We expect OI&E to be around negative $50 million, excluding any potential impact from the mark-to-market of minority investments, and our tax rate to be around 16.5%. Finally, today our board of directors has declared a cash dividend of 25 cents per share of common stock payable on August 15, 2024, to shareholders of record as of August 12, 2024. With that, let's open the call to questions.
Thank you, Luca. We ask that you limit yourself to 2 questions. Operator, may we have the first question, please?
Certainly. We will go ahead and take our first question from Erik Woodring with Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much for taking my question. Maybe, Tim, if we start with you, I thought some of the color you provided before the call about iPhone 15 performing better than the iPhone 14 was interesting. So just with that context, can you maybe help us understand where you see iPhone replacement cycles today, where you think the size of the base of iPhones that are aged and likely to upgrade are, and what that translates to in potential pent-up demand as we enter a new iPhone cycle? And then I have a follow-up. Thank you.
Yes, hi, Eric. The install base hit an all-time high during the quarter, and so we were very happy about that. iPhone in general grew in constant currency, and the 15, as you point out, if you look at the same number of weeks of the 15 from launch and compare that to the 14, the 15 is doing better than the 14. And so that's kind of a state of where we currently are. In terms of upgrade rates, it's very difficult mid-cycle to call upgrade rates. I would just say that with Apple Intelligence, we're very excited and about the level of value that we're going to provide to users. And we believe that that presents another reason for a compelling upgrade.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
And then second to that, can you maybe dig into the China dynamics a bit? Sales down 6% this quarter, 3% in constant currency, an improvement from last quarter on a tougher compare. That came on the back of some iPhone discounting. So can you maybe just share color on the China market as a whole, how much you believe promotions helped in the quarter, how sustainable this improvement is, and if this performance really changes any of your approach to the China market as we look forward? Thanks so much.
Yeah, Eric, as you point out, we decreased by 6.5% year over year for the whole of Greater China. And if you look at it on a constant currency basis, we declined by less than 3%. So over 50% of the decline year over year is currency related. That is an improvement from the first half of the fiscal year, and so we're happy to see the acceleration. If you look at iPhone in particular for Greater China, the install base set a record. We also, in mainland China, set a June quarter record for upgraders. And so that's a very strong signal. And in fact, from Kantar, the survey from Kantar this quarter showed that iPhones were the top 3 models in urban China. Also, if you look at one of the things we look at is the 15 family compared to the 14 family for the same number of weeks from launch. So this goes all the way back to the September of 23. If you look at that, the 15 is outperforming the 14. And so those are some of the color I would provide. In addition, one of the things that we're very focused on is the level of new customers buying our products. And so if you look at this on the Mac and iPad, in mainland China, the majority of customers are buying for the first time, buying that product for the first time. And the watch, the vast majority of people are buying the product for the first time. And during the quarter, I should say also that iPad returned to growth in Greater China as it did around the world. And so we continue to be confident in the long-term opportunity in China. I don't know how every chapter of the book reads, but we're very confident in the long term.
Great, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric. Operator, may we have the next question, please?
Our next question is from Ben Reitzes with Melius. Please go ahead.
Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Hey, Tim, now that you've launched or announced Apple Intelligence, do you have any ideas on how it may impact services? Do you feel like it'll accelerate your services business, augment it, and maybe folks will need to buy more storage and some other things? How are you thinking about it as a catalyst for services into next year? And I have a follow-up. Thanks.
We started the rollout of Apple Intelligence this week with developers. So some of the features are out there as of Monday, and we couldn't be more excited about getting them out there. Obviously, this will enable developers to take their apps to the next level. And so we're taking this first step in getting the beta out there, and we can't wait to see what kind of amazing things they do with it.
Okay, thanks. And then Luca, with regard to gross margin, it's been there's been some component price inflation and mix. Do you mind just giving us a little more color on how you're managing that sequentially, and how you feel about the current component environment as an impact on margins? Thanks.
Sure, Ben. I think I'll give you a bit of the walk for the June quarter and then get into the outlook that we provided for the September quarter. At the total company level, we've reported 46.3. Foreign exchange to have a minimal impact sequentially, although a more significant impact on a year-over-year basis. On the commodities side, I think that's what you're referring to. Yes, we've seen some increases on the memory front, but the rest of the commodities, we see a continuous decline. So in general, we feel we're well positioned, and as you know well, these are very high levels of gross margin for us, and we're pleased where we are.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ben. Operator, may we have the next question, please?
Our next question is from Mike Ng with Goldman Sachs. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. I just have two questions. First, I was wondering if you could talk about whether or not you've seen a shift in demand for iPhone 15 Pro, Pro Max model since WWDC that could potentially foreshadow consumer demand for Apple Intelligence-enabled phones.
We just announced the sort of the requirements at the system and the silicon level in June, and so we had very limited time during the quarter. So it's really too early to tell.
That's fair. And then, with the focus on upgrader potential over the next several years, I was just wondering if you could talk about what you're expecting from the U.S. promotional environment from your channel partners, whether that's U.S. wireless carriers, given the importance of device sales for those partners during an upgrade cycle, or any retail support on what could be a very strong smartphone upgrade period. Thank you.
We are very excited about Apple Intelligence and what it brings, and it's another compelling reason for an upgrade. I'd leave the promotional question for the carriers themselves to answer, but I believe it will be a very key time and a compelling upgrade cycle.
Great. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Operator, can we have the next question, please?
Our next question is from Amit Daryanani with Evercore. Please go ahead.
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone, and to as well. I guess, Tim, maybe back to the Apple Intelligence dynamic. There's really a lot of excitement from consumers around what Apple Intelligence could mean to them. Can you just touch on, do you think the intent is to launch all the Apple Intelligence features at the same time to consumers, or do you think they end up getting staggered a bit? And if they are staggered, do you think it impacts how consumers come out and buy the next generation iPhone?
The rollout, as we mentioned in June, we've actually started with developers this week. We started with some features of Apple Intelligence, not the complete suite. There are other features like languages beyond US English that will happen over the course of the year. And there are other features that will happen over the course of the year. And ChatGPT is integrated by the end of the calendar year. And so, yes, so it is a staggered launch.
Got it. And then, I guess, your services growth rates have been extremely impressive for several quarters, and seems like it's accelerated recently. Can you just talk about, when you look at this double-digit growth, how much of that do you think is coming from the install base growth versus, better ARPU or better monetization of the install base? And, how do you kind of see that mix changing as you go forward?
Yes, it's Luca. It's a combination of a number of factors. The install base growth is very important, of course, because we have a larger pool of customers that uses the ecosystem and uses our services. We are seeing, and we've seen this consistently for many, many quarters now, we see continued growth in the level of engagement that our customers have with our ecosystem. We have more transacting accounts every quarter, so more people using the ecosystem, both the free elements of the ecosystem and the paid elements. We see paid accounts growing double digits, and we've seen that for many, many quarters now. We look at our paid subscriptions on our platform, and they're growing strong double digits as well. So obviously, the growing level of engagement helps us, both from an ARPU standpoint and just a volume standpoint. Obviously, as you've seen over the last several years, we launched new services over time. And we've launched many new services fairly recently. Obviously, our payments business is relatively new. Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, Fitness Plus, so many other services we've added. And so we're providing more and more opportunities for our customers to interact with the ecosystem. And we believe we're doing also a very good job at improving the quality of these services and improving the amount of content that we make available. We continue to make significant investments on TV Plus, on Apple Arcade. We're launching in new shows, new games all the time. And I think you will continue to see that as we go forward. We're very, very happy with the 14% growth that we had this quarter, because particularly if you look at the performance that we had in services a year ago, the compares for us tend to get a bit more challenging in the second half of our fiscal year. But in spite of that, we delivered a level of growth that was better than what we were expecting at the beginning of the quarter.
Thanks, Amit. Operator, we'll take the next question, please.
Our next question is from Wamsi Mohan with Bank of America. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. Tim, you announced Apple Intelligence, but you also announced partnerships with OpenAI and presumably more coming down the road. How should investors think about the monetization models around these partnerships, where the CapEx investments are clearly being made by these potential partners, but you're obviously they're leveraging your distribution to your very attractive install base. So in the long term, do you see the Apple Intelligence the services growth from Apple Intelligence being the larger contributor over time, or do you see these partnerships becoming a larger contributor over time? And I will follow up.
I think, the way that I look at it is that Apple Intelligence is the on-device processing and the private cloud compute. And a lot of that will be things with a personal context. And then for world knowledge, we are integrating with ChatGPT initially, and that will be focused on world knowledge, as I said. And so the monetization model, I don't want to get into the terms of the commercial agreements because they're confidential between the parties. But I see both aspects as being very important. People want both.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
As a follow-up, maybe for Luca, just stepping back to the gross margin discussion again. If I look at calendar 23, you had on average 150 basis points increase in product gross margins on a year-on-year basis. In 2024 so far, we've been more flat year-on-year. When we think about that, is the incremental headwinds? I mean, there was FX headwinds throughout the last several years. So ex FX, are there other incremental headwinds that are either temporary or structural in nature that are perhaps limiting further upside to what are obviously very strong gross margins? Thank you.
Yeah, of course, as you said, the foreign exchange continues to be, this is incremental on a year-over-year basis, and it's one of those things that is outside of our control. We try to hedge our exposures, but it is what it is. We know that when the dollar is strong, our gross margins are affected. The other element that I think it's always important to keep in mind is that within the products business, our products have different margins profiles, and depending on their relative success in the marketplace, our products gross margin tends to move. And so the mix of our products has an impact on gross margins, right? And so we need to pay attention to that. Of course, we just launched an iPad, and that, is one of the factors. But we want all our products to be very successful in the marketplace, and that's why we always look at, gross margin dollars as the first order of priority, and gross margin percentage tends to follow from that. The other factor that obviously has an impact, a significant impact, is the state of the commodity markets, and they tend to go in cycles, and so we'll see how that plays out over time. But in general, we feel good about the level of gross margins that we have for our products business, and we think we're in a good position there.
Thanks, Luca.
Thanks, Wamsi. Operator, can we have the next question, please?
Our next question is from Krish Sankar with TD Cowen. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thanks for taking my question, and congrats on the strong results. The first one for Luca or Tim. We keep hearing about these increasing silicon content for AI edge devices. And also, I think, Luca, you spoke about increasing commodity costs. So I'm curious how to think about margins for these new AI devices. And Tim, do any of these Apple Intelligence features need more hardware updates than what we have today? And then I have a quick follow-up.
Maybe I'll take the second one first and then pass it over to Luca. In terms of the requirements to run Apple Intelligence, there are system requirements and there are silicon requirements. And so from an iPhone point of view, the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max will run Apple Intelligence and the successor products, obviously. If you look at the Mac, it starts with the M series of silicon that started in 2020, and the iPad is the same. And so it starts with the M series of silicon. And so there are system requirements and silicon requirements that go with each of those.
And from a gross margin standpoint, as you know, we don't provide any color past the current quarter, and we just provide a guidance for the for the quarter, 45.5 to 46.5. It is essentially broadly in line with what we reported for the June quarter. So we'll take it quarter by quarter, and we will report as the time goes by.
Got it. Very helpful. And then a quick follow-up for Tim. Thanks for the color on China. We also seen many other consumer discretionary and luxury brands talk about a weak China, and I think, Tim, you said half the weakness was FX related. I'm curious, the other half of the weakness, was that more China macro related, or do you think it is kind of like specific to Apple with domestic competitors? Any other color you could give would be very helpful. Thank you very much.
Well, certainly the competitive environment there is the most competitive in the world. I've said that before, and that remains to be the case. The macro economic factors have been in the press too, and I'm not an expert on those. I can only tell you what we're seeing, and we were pleased that the business showed improvement from the first half of the year.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Thank you, Krish. Operator, can we have the next question, please?
Our next question is from David Vogt with UBS. Please go ahead.
Great. Two, if I may also. Tim, first one for you. I know it's early days, and you talked about the developers just getting their hands on Apple Intelligence. But when you think about the categories that are currently in the App Store and kind of what you think app developers could do with this new technology, what's your instinct say in terms of, are these going to be iterative applications to currently available applications? Is there any sort of category that you think lends itself more naturally to Apple Intelligence? Is it games? Is it more creative? I'm just trying to get a sense for how you're thinking about it. And then I have a follow-up for Luca. Thanks.
If you look at how we've deployed Apple Intelligence or are deploying Apple Intelligence, we've really thought about it at pretty much all of the apps that you use every day. And so we've thought about it from notes to mail to messages and all the rest. And so there's been a deep level of thinking about how it affects those apps. And that's going to surface Apple Intelligence in a way that is natural to the user, and in a way that will, I think, get them very excited about it and get usage. Similarly, I think the developers will do that on a broad basis with their apps as well. And so I think it's profound, and we'll see what the developers do, but we're very excited to get the initial seed out there this week and see what they do. I think it will be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. I appreciate it. And Luca, just maybe, I know you didn't give a full rundown of product categories in your prepared remarks, but if I kind of take your comments at face value, I guess what I'm trying to think about is for the next quarter, it sounds like, with services being relatively strong and FX easing a little bit, you're effectively saying that product revenue in the September quarter is going to basically be flat with the September quarter last year ahead of a product launch. And so I'm just trying to get a sense for what are the puts and takes in that sort of outlook, particularly as you have Apple Intelligence hopefully stoking the fire for demand going forward. Thanks.
Well, we have, provided, let me repeat what we provided. We think that we're going to be growing total company revenue at a rate that is similar to what we reported, so the plus 5%, right? In spite of the fact that we're going to have some foreign exchange headwinds, we said about 150 basis points in the December quarter. And we said that we will grow services double digits at a rate that is similar to what we've reported for the first 3 quarters of the fiscal year. We are not going into the other categories. I think there's a lot of good math that you can do from what we've given you here. Keep in mind on the Mac that we will have a challenging compare from a year ago, given the fact that we launch, and we had the full quarter impact of the launch of the MacBook Air 15-inch a year ago. And also on the iPad, we reported 24% growth in the June quarter. And clearly, we had the benefit from the launch in the June quarter of the new products, the iPad Air and the iPad Pro. So important to keep that in mind on a sequential basis.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Operator, may we have the next question, please?
Our next question is from Atif Malik with Citi. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking my questions. The first one is for Tim. I know it's early days. The feedback on Apple Intelligence software features like notification summary and reduced interruption focus from the developers who have tried the iOS 18.1 beta version this week is very positive. My question is, in response to an earlier question, you talked about a staggered launch on some of these software features. So are you expecting most of the features that you announced at WWDC to be part of iOS 18, or we should be thinking that some of these features could potentially be part of iOS 19 next year?
Our objective that we set in June is to roll out US English starting in the fall, and that's to users, and then proceed with more functionality, more features, if you will, and more languages and regions coverage as we proceed across the next year. And so we sort of gave a time frame and we're tracking to that.
Understand. And the next one for Luca. Luca, the services growth momentum seems very strong. Are you seeing any impact from changes made to comply with the DMA rules?
Well, as you know, we've introduced some changes to the way we run the App Store in Europe already in March. And we have seen a good level of adoption from developers on those changes. We are, on an ongoing basis, discussing with the European Commission how to ensure full compliance with the DMA. It's obviously early stage, but in general, our results for the services business and for the App Store have been pretty good until now. Again, to just provide you a frame of reference, the percentage of revenue that we generate from the European Union on the App Store is about 7% of the total.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Atif. Operator, may we have the next question, please?
Our next question is from Samik Chatterjee with JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Yep. Hi. Thanks for taking my question. I guess, Tim, if I can just ask you about Apple Intelligence as well. There's a regulatory aspect as well in certain geographies. You mentioned the staggered launch that you're aiming for and the timelines you're thinking. How are you thinking about the complexity of the regulatory process, in particular like EU and maybe China? And does in terms of your timelines of the rollout, are you sort of embedding in the regulatory aspect here? And how should we think about timing then, including that? And have a follow-up. Thank you.
We're engaged, as you would guess, with both regulatory bodies that you mentioned. And our objective is to move as fast as we can, obviously, because our objective is always to get features out there for everyone. We have to understand the regulatory requirements before we can commit to doing that and commit a schedule to doing that. But we're very constructively engaged with both.
Okay, got it. And a quick one on the wearables category, Luca, I know you mentioned the acceleration there on a sequential basis. Maybe you can just sort of parse that out in terms of which categories drove the acceleration, because that's been a category that has been lagging a bit in terms of revenue trends for the past couple of quarters. So just curious what is starting to sort of drive it to accelerate on a sequential basis. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take that one. I think the important thing to remember when you look at the wearables, home and accessory categories is that we have a difficult launch compare. And we've been running that for a few quarters, and we still have that because last year had the continued benefit from the AirPods Pro 2nd generation, the Watch SE, and the very first Watch Ultra. And so it's important to keep that in mind. If you sort of take a step back, however, and look at the business across the trailing 12 months, it's grown. The wearables, home and accessory business has grown to almost $40 billion, which is double what it was 5 years ago.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samik. Operator, may we have the last question, please?
Our last question is from Richard Kramer with Arete Research. Please go ahead.
Thanks very much. Tim, you referenced the investment in innovation, and your R&D sales ratio reached what I think was a June quarter record, even before launching Apple Intelligence. Do you see the rollout of these features requiring further increases in R&D or increases in OpEx or CapEx for cloud compute capacity? And is it even possible to forecast the services usage as they roll out, given that they're so new for consumers? Thanks.
Clearly, we have increased R&D over time. We've been investing in AI and ML for years. And in addition to investing more, we've also redeployed certain skills onto AI and ML. And so the growth in sort of embedded in our numbers that we've shared here is, it's increasing year over year. On the CapEx part, it's important to remember that we employ a hybrid kind of approach where we do things internally and we have certain partners that we do business with externally, where the CapEx would appear in their respective businesses. But yes, I mean, you can expect that we will continue to invest and increase it year on year.
Okay, and maybe a quick follow-up for Luca. When we look at the free cash flow margins for the first 9 months, they're up materially. And given this year's product mix, can you describe to us what exactly in the services mix or cost controls is driving what seems to be structurally higher free cash flow margins across the business?
Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that. We are pretty pleased with that fact. And I think you probably also noticed that we've increased our return on capital to shareholders this quarter. I think this one was a record quarter for us. Well, it's the combination of a number of things. Of course, an improvement in the top line helps. The margin expansion that we've had over the last several years and several quarters obviously has helped. And so that is driving, better operating cash flow. On the CapEx front, as Tim said, we employ a hybrid model. Some of the investments, show up in our, on our balance sheet, and some other investments show up somewhere else, and we pay as we go. But in general, we try to run the company efficiently. We continue to think that capital efficiency is a good thing, and therefore we're pleased with the fact that our free cash flow is doing well this year.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Richard. A replay of today's call will be available for 2 weeks on Apple Podcasts as a webcast on apple.com/investor and via telephone. The number for the telephone replay is 866-583-1035.